Still making hats largely the same way it did in its earliest days, this past January, the employee-owned company added a new brand to their Pennsylvania assembly line, Kangol.
Employee owned company. What's that? Dang. Okay. So we was making cotton, and you know what I'm saying. We made clothes. No reason for nobody to have clothes. They had to clothe you. So they making this what homemakers do right here. Get some fabric, cloth, make blankets, wool, clothing. Okay.
Prominence in the US in the 1980s, the British brand was an integral part of hip-hop, a constant accessory of early rap luminaries like Run
British. Say British.
DMC, Grandmaster Flash, and LL Cool J. Founded in 1938, Kangol hats were made in the UK for about 60 years before moving to China. In 2001, the Bowman Hat Company...
I wonder why. And all the hats go to China.
Acquired the global license to design, produce, and distribute Kangol headwear. Then, in 2014, the Chinese plant producing the Kangol hats closed in order to move to Bangladesh for cheaper wages, forcing Bowman to find a new production facility. And like its role in hip-hop, Kangol is once again trend-setting.
2-1 for your number 3.
Running a growing roster of products formerly made in China. Through a combination of state grants, online fundraising, and company investment, Bowman bought and shipped the Kangol knitting machines from China to Adamstown. Don Rangione is the company's CEO. How difficult has it been to learn how to use these old machines?
How the fuck you did that, cuz? How the fuck you do that? Oh, I bought and own a company. How you become a global, how you become global? God damn.
Extraordinarily difficult. While some Kangol hats are still produced in offshore facilities, Rangione says US-based production looks increasingly attractive. Chinese wages have risen between about 10 and 15% a year, and more customers shop online and expect faster delivery times. If we get to the same efficiency levels that we had in Asia, using US labor rates, our cost is fairly close. We don't have to transport the product, and over time, as labor rates continue to rise in other parts of the world at a faster rate than they are here in America, it would actually become cost competitive to do it here.
What the fuck is he talking about? You just moved the factory to another factory, so that's people's jobs, gone in trades and skills that's lost because they're not passing it down. It's not like they got the equipment, and if the people do got the equipment, go ahead and pass it down. That's why it's good to have a little group on Facebook, where you meet up and you do projects. What you call it? A session.
Calculations are music to Harry Moser's ears.
So China is now not as competitive.
As the founder of the Reshoring Initiative, a group working to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., Moser spends a great deal of his time trying to sell this type of cost calculation to American companies.
When they first went offshore, say to China, the Chinese wages were so low that the price differential was, say, 30 or 40%. But now that the Chinese wages have come up, that gap might only be 15 or 20%.
Moser believes
15 for your number 6.
Increased Chinese wages make it difficult to justify the other costs associated with offshoring, like shipping, delivery delays, and the overhead that comes with maintaining large inventories.
So all these things that each one might only be 1 or 2%, but when you have 30 of them at 1 or 2%, you can make up for a 15 or 20%.
I ain't tell you to keep making that shit. Like, who the fuck? And then I ain't tell you to tell them to keep making the shit. Like, don't be blaming that shit on me. So, like, I appreciate y'all making it, but God, don't be blaming that shit on me.
Price difference from China.
Today, he's pitching his Reshoring Initiative at Mississippi State University in Starkville, Mississippi.
So my favorite single case about reshoring is GE. They brought back appliance production to Appliance Park in Louisville, Kentucky.
Moser argues companies could afford to bring nearly 1 million jobs back to the U.S.
We conclude that about 25% of what is offshore today would come back if companies did the math.
While U.S. employment in manufacturing started declining in the early 1980s, the massive job losses really didn't start until the millennium. Between 2000 and 2009, close to 6 million manufacturing jobs were lost. But in 2010, the hemorrhaging started to slow. Moser says, since then, 265,000 manufacturing jobs, with around 900 companies, have been created or reshored to the United States.
So we've gone from a net loss of over 200,000 a year to a net loss of 0 or maybe slightly positive. So huge improvement.
The jobs are in industries as diverse as appliances, autos, and furniture. In June, Emerald Home Furnishings, a Tacoma, Washington-based company, moved some of its production from China to this facility in New Albany, Mississippi. Manager Terry Treadaway says the internet and the need for faster delivery drove Emerald's decision to reshore.
I've been in furniture for 34 years, and I have traveled in China, but China today and China 20 years ago is different. So there are changes coming, and I think we'll see more and more jobs move back to the States.
Before, a couch would take as long as 6 weeks to ship from China to a U.S. customer. From New Albany, it can be built and shipped to the customer in 7 to 12 days. Mississippi also sweetened the deal. Emerald Home Furnishings received a $1.3 million incentive from the state of Mississippi to open this facility in New Albany.
Who funding this shit? Who funding this? Who the fuck funding this? You know what I'm saying? Who funding this shit?
In return, they promised to hire 150 new workers over the next 3 years.
Bed.
When they opened the plant this past June, the company says it received nearly 300 applications for 35 positions. They plan to hire an additional 25 people before the year's end.
Starting wages is $10 to $12 and up to $16, $17 national. The company pays 75% of the employees health insurance and 50% of the dependents.
Bullshit.
We also have 401k.
In neighboring Alabama, Hess Air, which makes cooling machines in Holly Pond, took over this shuttered jeans distributing center in April after they received a tax abatement from the town. President Jerry Fan.
Look, all them motherfuckers working hard, and they can't even cop that motherfucker. They can't even cop one of them bitches. $15 an hour. Yeah.
Purchased the business 11 years ago, at the time when it produced nearly all of its products in China. Fan says his decision to reshore jobs in Alabama was influenced by the desire to be closer to his customers and the availability of a more skilled workforce, even if that meant paying higher wages.
Part of our manufacturing is that we have to provide certain level of customer service, and the people here we working for us, the skill levels, even in Holly Pond, we find they're problem solvers and they're motivated, so those are very important considerations.
Robert Atkinson is among the skeptics of the impact of these recent manufacturing developments. He's president of the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation in Washington, D.C.
We're not engaged in a renaissance. We're engaged in a partial recovery. What we're in the midst of is it's not so bad as it used to be. So, yeah, manufacturing's growing a little bit, but we lost over a third of our manufacturing jobs in the 2000s. It was decimated. And we're running essentially an $800 billion trade deficit.
Atkinson says Harry Moser's model is good, but...
Ha, motherfucker. Ha! Who funding this shit?
Absent substantial changes in tax...
Look, first of all, motherfucker, I don't care. I do not care. There go your orange for your Freemasonry. All that bullshit, they up in there sweating like dogs. Motherfucking working their brains out, 12-hour shifts. Shit, can't even get one piece. Can't even get one. They could probably get something, probably a little something on the side for free, hopefully. Shit. Can you sleep in there? Can you sleep in there? Do I got a bed? You know what I'm saying? Oh, man. Talking about some deficit. Oh, man. Who funding this shit?
Tariff and trade policies, the U.S. will not return to its former manufacturing might.
Every other country's putting in place a manufacturing strategy. Better tax incentives for investing in research. Better tax incentives for investing in machinery. Apprenticeship programs for their workers. If we just sort of sit back and think we're going to win the race by the fact that we're Americans, well, we're not.
We've proven that the cost gap is low enough with China and countries like that. We can bring back hundreds of thousands. So with some improvements in our terms of trade and our competitiveness, it's reasonable that we will bring back millions.
Until that happens, the future of American...
Man, tell me what's the race if you did that shit? What's the race? What is the fucking race? What is the race? You moved it over there. You moved that shit over there. Somebody moved that shit over there. I ain't moved that shit over there.
Manufacturing may well be determined by the efforts already underway in places like New Albany, Holly Pond, or Adamstown. Would you make this bet again?
At this point, we're still in the early stages of climbing this mountain. Our costs are way out of line with where they need to be, and we've mastered some of the quality, but not all of the quality. So this story ends very happily if this is successful and we're making profits and providing for our employee owners, which is our mission as a company. But it ends very sadly if America's oldest hat maker can't make this happen and be successful and survive.
All they want you to do is keep that bitch alive. Keep that